We are live, boys and girls.
Hello, everybody.
Alrighty then.
Hello,
Welcome
shalom.
to a special edition Sunday, episode 13 podcast. Gentlemen, it's good to see you. I think it is appropriate to introduce our guest for tonight. Ryan, aka Odin, in the top right-hand corner here, if you're watching my stream at least, is a esports shoutcaster and Dark and Darker aficionado who's been around since PT2. He was, shameless plug, featured on a recent player profile episode and is just all around a good dude. And we are excited to have you on the program, sir. Welcome.
I appreciate being here. I mean, I wasn't expecting to be here, and then you were like, "Hey, you coming on the podcast?" I'm like, "If you're inviting, then yeah, let's do it."
It's okay. Ken didn't know we were doing it either, so it's perfectly fine.
Oh yeah, I know. I'm here.
True.
I mean,
He's like, "What do you mean?"
Sobad's not even here. Look at him, dude.
I mean, I showed up on
Dude.
time though. That's pretty much means we're good to go.
Yeah, if on time is within 5 minutes of the start time, yes, you were on time. You got it.
We take that.
I mean, it starts when I arrive, so I'm always on time.
Yeah, Axl Rose over here. Yes, indeed. Well, guys,
All
we
right.
got a ton to cover. Where do we want to start?
Yeah, we skipped last week, so we haven't even
We
touched
did.
on this whole patch. So there's a lot to delve into.
There
I don't
is
even
a
know
lot.
Where should we start, Sobad? What do you think? His Sobad with it.
Honestly, from the top ropes, you just got to start with the patch and the brand. Like you can start from the very tippy top of the pyramid, which is the player count, and then why it's ramped up so high and why so many people are enthusiastic. You have the first time ever, nothing but positive posts on Reddit and on Discord and a lot of new videos. So let's start there. Why do we think the player count is up right now?
Game's fun.
It is
Mhm.
fun.
But why is it fun? High roller's free.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And we finally got the white, gray, normal lobbies. New players aren't getting stomped anymore, and high rollers are full of players that are geared and want to fight. I'm just gonna start there. I talk about this every week. For the first time in months, I am happy to play high roller again, and it feels great. I'm sure all of you are probably diving into high roller as well. I'm playing normal. I play them both, but I've been deep into high roller for the first time in a long time, and it feels good to be back. I'll be honest.
It feels incredible.
Yeah.
Mr.
It's
Odin,
great, dude.
Ryan, what do you think?
I think everybody kind of was skeptical that they were going to keep the white lobbies. You know, the meme has kind of come full circle here with Iron Mace, where like every time something's great, they're like, "All right, cool, we're getting Rivet tomorrow. We're doing something new." Glad you guys enjoyed that. We'll come back to that, maybe never. But they saw the reception, and I gotta say, it was like the first time I've seen for like a week straight that Reddit wasn't crying about the game. So I think they kind of were like, "All right, people like this. Let's put it in." And having the normal to HR pipeline and the ability for skilled players to just go directly into HR and play the game they want to play with more mixes of gear and not just everybody sweating their ass off in HR 24/7. It's amazing. The game feels fantastic right now.
Totally
What about you,
agree.
Sobad? I saw you playing a lot of Goblin Caves. Have you been doing HR Goblin Caves? How's that? I haven't played any of that yet.
I love Goblin Caves right now. We can talk about balance later, but just the system of going into HR for free, like you mentioned, especially at level 1, for me as a permadeath player, and now everyone is geared. Everyone in there. I was in there all day today. Granted, today I did really well. I didn't die at all, and I ended up like plus 10 or 15 gold keys, but it's always fights. It feels very fair and balanced. There's a constant back and forth of everyone having capes and everyone holding positions. It feels a lot more like a battle royale in there, where you don't always have to end the fight in a death. It's a lot of back and forth, a lot of resetting, and then just leaving. Because there's enough portals and escapes for everybody. But you always want that win, right? You want to chase that dopamine. And so I feel like Goblin Cave is in the best place that it's ever been in. And there's so many quests that lead you there that I think more people than ever are going in there. Like the queues are instant and there's always gear. Like one good fight and you just leave. Like one fight, your inventory's full, you're out.
Another thing that I noticed about like the high roller is that a lot of people are queuing naked, right? Which is fine. Like not like a lot, but some people are. But even if you're like a novice player queuing into high roller naked, you can get geared really fast, like within the first raid. And like before you get into your first fight, you can pick up a couple of blues, purples, and greens, and like have a makeshift set that you could use to fight. And so like, even when I'm like rock bottom, down bad, me and my squad were hurting, we could queue naked, a couple of clerics. open a couple of chests. We have stuff. We can start the snowball, and that feels really good. I'm not sure if we had that previously. I've not noticed it before, but it feels like the rarity on gear is higher in high roller drops than it's ever been. Not just like currency items, which I think is good.
Couldn't agree
Agreed.
more. Yeah, that would be my take as well. As the game feels extremely good because the loop, the progression from normal to high roller feels really good. And if you just want to skip straight to high roller, like you said, you can get geared really fast. And subsequently, I am like completely, I didn't have a ton of gear fear before, but I did have a propensity to save up good sets for when I was going to play with teams. And I like to just solo crypts all the time. Now I don't care. Now I'll just run my best gear at all times because I feel like I can go and replace it with very minimal effort. And the market has been so diluted because of this effect that I could buy a decent set. Like purples go for $50, $100 for like bad to moderate bad rolls. Yeah. So now like just dying always sucks, but it doesn't feel catastrophic. So I think new players really feel a lot better about that if they do end up going to high roller. So yeah, it's a huge W for me all around.
Do you remember the patch that we had like I don't know, it was like a month ago at this point where they were just like, we're experimenting with, we're just gonna crank the loot up in normals, and everybody was getting like hundreds and hundreds of like 400 or 500 gold from a normal, and all these purples are just in every chest. You'd open a chest and the entire window was just full of stuff, and everybody's like, this is great. And of course it's not sustainable like that to have gear like that dropping in normals, especially with the old system where you could just take whatever you wanted in the normals. Right. But we talked about this, Josh and I, a couple times, where like the enjoyment, the monkey brain dopamine hit of getting cool shit on a regular basis is something that makes the game really fun. It's a loot based game, so having those interactions in high roller, where like Ken said, you just drop in one game naked, you have like almost a full kit by the time you leave. You've got some stuff to put in your stash, even if it's not great. It just gets you going. And I want to point out, by the way, before we started the podcast, Ken was like, I'm going to die. I haven't slept in 48 hours. I'm going to need to get hard carry. And he's like already passionately up here talking about how sick the game is.
He's back.
He shows up. He shows up when the spotlight's on.
That's how you know the game's in a good state, though.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the fact that I could play 20 hours straight and not be bored. Like other games that I play in the past, like you play a long amount of time, you get burnt out, you get exhausted, and you're like, I'm done. But I just want to keep playing Darker and Darker until my eyes shut every day. And I'm like, all right, this is great. I'm happy to be here. The gameplay loop feels great. I am so excited to finish this podcast so I can get back into the dungeon, baby.
Oh yeah. The last time we plotted, fellas, was 9 days ago. So if you recall, the change to the low gear normal dungeons didn't happen until after that, if I'm not mistaken. So they started with just junk, or was it junk and poor? Now I'm questioning whether it was junk and poor.
No, it was junk, or whatever the lowest grade was, is what we started with, and then we upgraded to the next gray. There was 2 grays. So there was like base grays and then merchant bot grays, and then we upgraded the whites
to commons, which I think it was the perfect way to approach that. For once, one of the few times at least, I don't want to say for once, but one of the few times, Iron Mace took a measured, incremental approach to deploying something new, and it worked.
Crazy madness. It's madness.
Worked flawlessly. And they stopped at the right place. And like you guys said, they listened to the crowd feedback. And I don't want to hear any arguments about going up to green. I do think there is a legitimate argument that now that greens are borderline worthless, except just to get you kind of a starter kit for HR. Outside of that, you can't buy freaking greens on the market. I end up trashing and selling more greens than anything else in my stash. But that's really the only thing. And if that is the sacrifice we have to make the rest of the game good, I'm all in, because you can't put magic in normals because people will min-max it and ruin it again. You have to stick with common. So I'll die on that hill all day long.
I'll die with you. I think normals are in a perfect state. That's a great place for people to drop in, have fun, and learn. And to be honest, once you get good at the game, you can, like Ken's saying, you can go 0 to hero in HR in pretty much 1, maybe 2 runs.
Right.
And that's with dropping with nothing. So I think the gameplay loop of going normal, doing some quests, getting some greens and blues, dipping your toes into HR until you get used to it. Or like you said, it's so cheap to buy purples on the market that you can get fully kitted for like 400 to 500 gold. It's like 1 or 2 or 3 runs. And then you just go for it. And I think it's a perfect system. You've got like the non-MMR chill zone, and then you have HR, which is in a really good spot. And I also feel like the MMR brackets are good. From at least where I'm at in my bracket, I feel like I'm fighting pretty equally skilled players, but it's not like a hyper sweaty competitive fiesta. Like I can sit in my starter box and farm, and like people don't always push it, or I can like go to mid and get some fights. You can kind of just do whatever you want. Sometimes it's a lot of fights, but I haven't felt it the same way that I felt it sort of last season, where when the leaderboards were out last season, it was very sweaty. Like everybody ran named weapons. It was really intense in there. So far, and probably because of quests and the limit to crafting, everyone just kind of has normal like purples. I feel like everyone I fight has just like mixed world purples. Nobody's really like min-maxing. They're just wearing, whatever purple gear they have. And then if you die, like you just go again.
Well, yeah, there's like I think why that feels that way is because there's a larger pool, and like it was a much smaller pool last season, the season previous. So like the people that were queuing high roller was a much lower number of players, and you're fighting the same pool of 100 sweaty dorks min-maxing over and over. And now those sweaty dorks are diluted amongst the general population of thousands and thousands of players playing high roller, and it just creates a much healthier ecosystem for the game in general.
Speaking of thousands and thousands of players, the player pop is looking fantastic right now. I think we're up to like 25K last night or something, which is considering the fact that most people had the opinion that the game was fucked and it was just going to die and there was no way it could possibly come back from where it was. And we were down to like 7K on a Friday night prime time. For us to come back from have the patch and then bring back such a healthy player base that you can have high population in every queue right now. You don't have to wait, at least in America. I can't speak to the other regions. I know OS still has a pretty serious teaming problem, and I haven't heard Spuddy in a little while. I don't know if he's still playing, but it was turning him off to the game. But aside from that region, I feel like everywhere else is doing great.
Just move. I mean, what's he doing?
Yeah, I know, seriously. Why are you in Australia anyway? It's all the way the fuck over there.
The upside down.
Yeah, no, that's it. The queues are great. Like queues are instant. They're full of just geared players. Last season, every stream that I went into, like all my friends playing this game, it was like lots of doom and gloom. Everybody was so negative, worried about the game, and now it's a whole new perspective. Everyone is like, wow, crazy. What, just one patch with like not extremely crazy groundbreaking changes could just do to fix the game completely. We haven't even touched on like the content they've added, like with quest crafting
We're
items.
gonna be here a while.
Yeah. Maybe we should segue right into that. We haven't even touched on quests yet. So what do you guys think about the first iteration of the quest system? I think it is a good starting point. It has issues, but it's working. I'm glad it exists, and we can definitely build on top of this.
There's more than
Josh,
I thought.
I think you should jump in for this one because you've been grinding it the most out of all of us.
Yeah, no kidding. 50 hours in.
I mean, that pretty much nailed it though. Like quests are really, really good, and they're in a good spot time-wise. I think the majority of players will be able to finish them over the course of the 90-day season. And it definitely has issues, but they're super fixable. The idea that we can turn items in as we get them is going to already make that a perfect system. Like that alone fixes all the stash space issues and the sort of like fiendish idea of having to gather it all. But overall, the rewards are really, really good. So for those that don't know, as you complete quests, you gain affinity, aka reputation with the merchants, and it unlocks a lot. I've now finished my weaponsmith, and there's like an entire page, almost 2 pages of items I can buy. I get like 30 to 60% off of greens and blues, so I can just buy like statted blue weapons for 60 to 70 gold. I can craft or buy throwing weapons. I know a lot of people have been asking about that. You can buy throwing weapons and traps once you finish your top level quests.
Nice.
So it feels good to finish the quest. You get golden keys, troll pelts, gold coin chests, like entire stacks of blue prot pots, luck pots, like all the things that you get feel like very, very good rewards once you get to the middling to top levels. And so I think quests are great. It's just something you can keep adding to, and just kind of temper with the numbers a little bit, and it's going to be great. I think 15 liches is too much for the average
It's a lot.
player.
Considering you have to be the one to last hit it, yes. If it,
I think it would be
right.
better.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it was the entire party, I think it'd be much better. But
yeah, that'd be a lot easier.
Yep.
So
Josh, real
Ken
quick,
nailed it.
how do you know you're getting 60 to 70%? Does it show you the discount level that you get once you get there?
I think there is a discount value shown somewhere, but I just know because they used to cost way more, and also my grays are cheaper. Like it's like 8 gold for like a 2-handed gray weapon, or like 12 gold.
I think when you hover over on the merchant screen, if you look at where you have the favor thing, if you hover over the little favor icon, I think it shows you. Yeah, the affinity. I think it shows you.
Nice. That's awesome. Very cool.
So what about you, Odin? What is your experience with questing been? I'm sure you probably like them, but like, what about them do you like or dislike?
So because yesterday I was dumping a lot of time in helping so bad with his quests.
I'm really sorry.
I mean, like I have fun with the game anyway, but it definitely is a lot of work. There's a lot of stuff going on with these quests. I think it's a good starting point. I think everybody agrees that there's definitely work that needs to be done. Turning stuff in one at a time needs to be a thing, because it feels like the way the quests are designed right now, you either have to have absolutely no wealth that you build whatsoever for an extended period of time at the cost of doing the quests, or you have to ignore the quests and only do the ones that are like kill mimics, kill skeletons, that stuff, and race to get as much money as you can to get a stash tab, and then do the quests. So adding the ability to turn it in one at a time is fun. I think that'll make it a lot more enjoyable for the average player. But as far as the quest system actually goes, I think if once they start adding more merchants and there's more, I don't know, like content, more features to work towards, like a guild hall and your own personal stash and stuff, I think that the foundation has already paved the way for some really interesting stuff to be done. And once we get beyond bring me 15 leather caps, it's going to be fun. There's going to be enough stuff for people to do that they're going to be engaged all season long. I think there's already enough for somebody to be busy for an entire season if they're a casual player, but it's good so far. I like it.
Is there anything like glaring that you dislike or think that's like problematic? Like as it is?
Well, I mean, aside from having the last hit, I think that like forcing people to go into maps, like if you don't enjoy ruins, you don't enjoy ruins. So if you have to go do ruins 30 times and you have to survive 30 of those, that means you're actually probably playing like 50 or 60, if not more, if you're a newer player. It could get pretty tedious. And if those quests are chains that are blocking you off from getting to other things that you feel are important to you as a player, I feel like that could be a pretty big turnoff. So maybe changing the system a little bit so that it doesn't put these like hard blocks on you getting to other points could be good. But they did such a good job with this. I'll let them cook. I'm sure they're taking a little vacation time. We'll let them come back and see what they do.
Yeah, that was exactly what I was gonna bring up. I think there should be map specific quests to get you to play Goblin Caves, to play Ruins, to play Crypts, but I don't think the map specific quests should be super grindy quests. They should be go to the map, find whatever checkpoints, whatever. Like you have to do them a couple times, but having to go to Goblin Caves
quests, yeah,
exactly. Like kind of like Tarkov, where okay, you got to go to interchange, you got to go here, and here, discover all the stores or extract, not get 20 goblin ears or a troll pelt, so you have to farm Goblin Caves 100 times when you're not like a Goblin Caves player. That's a feel bad for a lot of people. Like I'm stuck on the quest line because I'm not gonna go get 20 goblin ears. I'm sorry, STF. I get it. You want me to, but I'm just not. I'm not that guy. I'm just not that guy.
One of us is a goblin enjoyer, and the rest of us are not.
Like, I
like Goblin Caves. I'll go dabble in the caves every now and then. I'm not gonna do 100 raids. I just can't do it. I just can't.
I'm like 100 raids in, and I only have 11 ears, and 2 or 3 of those I got from other players who'd got them. So like, I don't know if I just have
200
bad luck.
raids. My bad.
Yeah. Also, the 15 wolf pelts, that is a lot of wolf pelts. Me and Odin were in ruins for like 9 or 10 hours yesterday, and I got like
2?
1.
I think we got 2.
Yeah, you got to put a lot more wolves on the map.
That's a lot of pelts.
So localized. Yeah, that's
I've been saying for a while. I mean, they need to have gathering skills. This game needs skinning and herbalism and mining like skills. I should be able to go in, kill some wolves with bring out my skinning knife, fucking and get a pelt if I want it, or have a higher chance to get a pelt if I have like a higher skinning level. Stuff like that would be cool. I know that's like not even on their radar. I know I'm like in fairy tale land, but I would love something like that. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, they talked about alchemy and gathering herbs, so I don't think
true.
we're too far off. Like the other thing that's cool about the harvesting crafting aspect is that it's dangerous because you actually have to have the pickaxe in your hand. And so now if someone jumps you, there's a whole delay period to even get your weapon out. So I kind of like that because it's a profitable activity. Speaking of new things, how about the regular interaction sets? I love what they're doing. They're really like the gloves, you can get up to 200 or 300%.
So this is what we were talking about the other week, where like there's ways to make gearing interesting without just putting powerful combat stats on gear. Like now they're just a much larger variety of stats I could pick and choose from and make more unique sets. And one of them being the interaction speed set, which is really good for pickpocket rogue, by the way. So that's kind of cool. But I'm happy to exist. Sometimes if I don't like bring them in, I don't like build sets around that. But if I find a pair of interaction gloves in raid, I'll carry them because I know I'm gonna go hit the gold pile after I kill Lich in a couple of minutes, and I'll use them there. And I'm like, yeah, I'm happy these exist. This is good. Good job, Iron Mace.
Yeah, before we get too far off the topic, Scott, since you're the one that has the least amount of time to play amongst us, how do the quests feel for you?
So far, so good. I kind of hamstrung myself a little bit in that, number one, I was stubborn about chasing the 3K gold to open up the second stash tab. So I started grinding, and eventually I caved and just said, I can't do the leather caps and the campfires and try to store anything worthwhile, or like more than one set, essentially. Like I had to basically abandon everything else, obviously. So I stopped the quest progression, chased my 3,000 gold, which wasn't that bad. Now that you can go into high roller, it wasn't bad at all. I tracked my progress with my cleric, so I leveled my cleric first. It took 32 raids to get from 1 to 20. It took 2 hours and 27 minutes to get from 1 to 15. So that is crazy good. And I'm not that great of a player. So, I mean, if I can do that, almost anybody that has any time in this game can do it. So that part was, it was a learning curve. I should have realized it earlier, but I didn't. Second thing for me is normally when we do a wipe, I like to bounce around. So I'll go from my cleric to my bard to my wizard. So I got the bard up to 15, got the wizard up to 15. And it was like, that part was cool to say that, yeah, now I've got 3 characters at 15 that I can all play with other people, but I'm nowhere in the quest line on any of them. Like I'm still on quest 1 with each character. That's on me though. So that's not, I mean, that's obviously not a negative or detractor towards Iron Mace. That's just the nature of the game. I don't think there should be account level quests. I don't think. Maybe there's an argument to be made there, but what they're doing now, I think it definitely needs to be character specific.
Do you think quests should be account wide or not character specific? Because I feel it's pretty bad.
I think they should be.
I think it should be account wide.
Yeah,
it's so much. It's like 90 hours of actual in-game play, playing really well to finish on one character. That's really punishing if you want to play anybody else. I think we need a shared stash and shared quests. Because like I don't always want to play my Slayer. Like it'd be nice to go do like, rogue on goblin to finish that quest and then swap over to wizard for crypts or something.
Yeah, I farmed 45 bald caps the other day because we had to do it on my 3 characters, and I'm like, this hurts that hurts me.
It detracts from the enjoyment of the quest too, especially when you're repeating the same thing. It's like doing an MMO. If you level characters back to back, if you've played the same quest 3 times in a row, the first time around you might have fun with it. The third time around, you're like, God, I gotta do this fucking quest again. I think having the shared stash is a good way to sort of address the problem, because if you have a character that gets all the way through the quest chain, then they can, you can use them as your quest character or your merchant character. You buy everything from the merchants on them, you sell everything to the merchants, so you get the best prices, you use all your crafting for them, and then you use your shared storage to move stuff back and forth. It's a little bit tedious, but I wouldn't be, totally against that as long as we had the shared storage. But like you said, having to I'm also somebody who just loves playing a bunch of classes. There are so many characters I enjoy in this game, with the exception of like Barb and Warlock. I like playing pretty much everything. So realizing that it's going to take like 100+ hours for a normal player that's not getting funneled to get most of the quests done on a single class makes me hesitant to really delve too deep into it, because it's like, do I really want to spend 100 hours on this character when I'm having fun doing other things? We want to switch up the comp, go play something else. I don't know. I think the quest chains maybe being account bound could be a good thing.
Mm-hmm. I will say though that at least no one has to do the quests.
Mm.
There's no reason to even do them if you don't want to, because you can buy everything you need from anybody on the market. And like I said, like the stuff that I get is good and it's cheap, but it's not cheaper than the market. Like I can get statted blues, but it's on a 30-minute rotation, or I can just go on the market and buy like a really good rolled purple for like 100. And there's a ton of people selling stuff. There's a big influx of items. And when we get the auction house next month, then I really don't think you would need to do them. You would just buy whatever you want. And Trade Guild is as active as ever. I think it's up to like 25,000 members. So you can just have somebody craft for you. Like I can now make all the legendary named weapons and all the silver weapons. So if anybody needed that, I would just, pump it out. So
Also, but yeah, since you brought up the craftable weapons, I love the new silver weapons. I haven't unlocked the new vendors yet, but I've looted some stuff off players that I've killed. I got like the legendary divine mace off of a guy earlier today, and I was like, "Whoa! I didn't know this existed. This thing's awesome." And I think the undead slaying weapons are so cool. I love using them in my class. I get those weapons. I take the undead slaying perk, and I am a farming machine. It feels so good. And like if you're like on an average player and you're just having trouble getting through the PvE in the dungeon, these weapons are like very low requirements, just like a couple of silver and a green base, and you could have a very strong PvE weapon that will help like a more novice player just get through the dungeon, to get through the content much easier. And I'm like so happy they exist. I think they're very cool. I want more stuff like this. Of course, there isn't a spell book. There's no crystal sword. The Iron Mace hates wizards, but whatever, whatever.
And clerics,
at
man.
least
Clerics are suffering too from that alchemist not selling anything. That's hurt. That's hurtful.
They're working on it. They have to work on it. Of course,
they're working on it for sure.
Yeah, they're busy. They're busy.
But yeah, I love you mentioned the silver. The silver coins, giving them a purpose. Good play there.
The best. Yeah.
I went from
actual value.
hating silver coins more than anything on the planet
to
now I can't stop picking them up. I'm like, oh, I need more silver coins. Give me these silver coins.
I'll pick up a single one now. It doesn't even have to be a pile. I'll pick up a single one.
And I hate the fact that I want them because they're good though. And
this is the perfect proof of concept of how far they could take crafting in this game. I was actually really excited to see iron and copper get added to the game, because this is something that Scott mentioned the player spotlight earlier that we did like a couple weeks ago. Iron and copper is something I wanted to see. Now I'm not so keen on the fact that they added it to the high level dungeons, because it almost feels like a waste of your time to get it. And it felt the design behind it felt like it should be something that low level players want to get, because you look at copper light gear, it's green, the stats aren't great. Yeah, the stats aren't good.
It's cool.
Yeah, it is fucking sick. It does look really
lot.
Nice.
You need a lot of copper to craft that crap. Like the amount of effort you have to go to get that like not good gear is totally not worth.
I dropped a full epic set off of a fighter today to pick up this stupid copper light set, the full crab, because it just looks so good. And full crab, dude. So awesome. I'm happy to exist. It's unfortunate that it came out at a time where they're separating normals and high rollers based on gear rarity, because now it feels like copper really doesn't have a place.
Right.
But it looks cool, and maybe if they can tailor the stats on it to be more specific for something maybe not combat related, like how they kind of have movement speed on it and less action speed. That's kind of unique, but maybe they can make it an interaction speed set or something. I don't know. So maybe they could fix it, but it's cool. It's very cool.
It is cool. They definitely have to fix it. It's way too much effort to go to get greens and blues. And like you said, Odin, that should be in normals. Like I'm in my high roller goblin maze, and I'm like, I just see the copper and the iron, I just skip it. I'm like, ugh, like I don't. What?
Yeah,
it takes the same amount of mats to craft a copper light chest piece as it does a ruby silver chest piece. Why would I get copper? And then the throwables as well needs to be tweaked a little bit. I think 2 iron bars to make 2 Francisca axes, not 2 stacks, like 1 little stack, is way too much.
That's silly.
But once you finish the quest line, like I said, and then I can just buy a stack of Franciscas again for 17. I was in a weird place when I realized that we could no longer buy Franciscas or throwing knives. I thought that both fighter and barbarian was going to suffer immensely, and it does. But once you get to the point where you can buy them, now you have mid range again, and it feels good. But I was getting kited by everybody as far as balance goes. But now it feels way better. I was very afraid of wizards until I could buy Franciscas, and now it's like back to being balanced.
So how do we feel about balance? You said balance. How do we feel about like balance in general amongst the classes in the dungeon? Does anything seem like inherently broken at the moment, or like inherently weak? Like it feels pretty good to me, but I'm kind of curious of what you guys think. We'll start with you, Odin. What do you think? What's anything a problem?
I think it's hard to say what we should do with normals, because I think anybody who's played a decent amount of normals knows that Wizard is insane in normals. They absolutely just like run the show in normals. But I don't know if I care that much about balancing around normals to the point where like a high skill, high risk, high reward class should be, smacked. I think they're performing pretty adequately in High Roller, but I do think Explosion was a really silly addition. It's very cool, but it was a little silly to put a hit scan fireball on the class, even if it does have a delayed explosion. The only counterplay to it is cleanse, and how many clerics that are running cleanse and actually think to use that in PvP. The magic missile change makes them. It's very fun and exciting to use, but magic missiles now just think, oh, you came into melee, fucking idiot.
Goodbye.
Good job. Eat these missiles, you're dead.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I haven't really experienced a lot of like balance issues personally. I think when classes are all really geared, and when I say really geared, I mean they get that first like bit of decent gear after like 1 or 2 runs of High Roller. It feels pretty good. The spread of classes I've seen, with the exception of Barb being like completely absent from the meta currently, probably because of no Franciscas. I have no real complaints. I think Rogue, the Rogue landmine is a concern that the Goblin Caves players are feeling a little more than the HR Crypts players, but I'll let Josh talk about that because I know he's got some feelings about Rogues.
I can't stand rogues now. They need to go back to being nerfed. I know we have to balance around solos, duos, and trios, but rogues and Goblin Caves are out of control right now. They do way too much damage, and they don't have to play correctly. So we're back to the landmine meta. We talked about this like two wipes ago. They ended up nerfing ambush, and then they like ninja buffed it this patch along with invisibility.
Oh yeah,
and
the ninja
haste.
buff to invis and haste. I forgot about that.
Yeah, like I don't. So for me, balance wise overall, I think wizards are a little too strong now. It's great that they got more utility and more damage, and they're a serious part of the meta, including solos, which is fun to see because they've been pretty much hated on and kind of garbage the last like 2 wipes. Now they output some serious damage. As far as like specific tweaks, a lightning strike needs to not slow. It already does an insane amount of damage, and I think instacast needs to be looked at a little bit. Like getting an instacast twice in a fight within like a 25-second time span feels like a lot.
15 seconds, right? Or 18?
Yeah, it's like 18-second cooldown. So they hit you with something else is coming behind it, and in the next like 10 or 12 seconds, another instacast is coming. So it feels like a lot, but I don't know. I don't know. Like I thought all of that before I got access to throwing weapons again, and now I don't care. Like now I just fight. Like I just you can't get close to them. Like you said, magic missile seems really strong, but like I don't know, just don't get next to them. I'm not sure. So I won't say too much about wizard. And then my main complaint is just rogue. Rogue doesn't need anything. Their damage didn't change between last wipe and now, but everybody's health dropped by half. So they're still outputting an insane amount of damage, and they're like out DPSing the DPS classes, and I don't like that part. So I don't know. I think that just needs like bring ambush damage down, and then let's put a sound on hide like we've been saying for like 20 or 30 podcasts by now. 1 second, my cats have escaped their jail. Yes.
The kitty prison bars have been broken down. They cannot be contained. I want to continue the balance discussion, but just to put a bookmark here, I think we should have like an entire discussion around rogue, because it's been such a I feel like wizard and rogue, which are the classes that Iron Mace plays the most according to either Terry or SDF.
I don't believe it.
They're
They're all fighter players.
You would think they're all Ranger players with the fact that Ranger never gets nerfed at all. But I almost
feel like that bad right now. I don't think.
I agree.
It doesn't feel bad.
I want to have a talk about after we get done with this whole round robin on balance. I want to have a talk about how Wizard and Rogue affect the balance and like if there's something that needs to be done about the two classes specifically. But while he's dealing with his escaped children, Scott, how do you feel about it?
I have very few complaints. Now, I'm not running into tons of rogues and crypts. So I went and I looked at we haven't talked about the stats, like getting your data, which is absolutely fantastic. So the way that I interpreted what Terry mentioned and even the patch notes for that matter was that only your high roller stats were going to be tracked, right? Well, it turns out you only get the exit screen in high roller, but all of your normal stats are still tracked. So that's how I was able to tell, like, hey, how many raids did it take me to get to level 15, level 20, etc.? Because it tracks normals, ruins, goblin, like all of that stuff is tracked. And you can go and use that drop-down menu in the player statistics tab. So that
I didn't even know about that.
Oh, dude, it's incredible. So freaking
I gotta pull
cool.
it up right now.
Yeah, I haven't looked either.
But yeah, so I've done with, at least with my cleric, it was pretty much all crypts until yesterday. Ran a few ruins raids with Soapy. He hadn't been to ruins yet and hadn't really played a lot of groups. So we just went and effed around off stream and had a good time playing ruins. And then I entered the goblin caves for the first time today. My overall impression is that the balance, just to agree with Nate, feels better than it has maybe ever, but it's certainly a runner-up or better. Like the balance feels really, really good. Now, will that change once guys like Josh unlock all of the Franciscers again and I'm getting wrecked by barbarians? Then, maybe I'll change my opinion. Or fighters, for that matter, Slayer fighters that are just chucking those things all over the place. But right now it feels good because Rangers don't have a ton of access to traps, so you don't see 800 traps on the map. They're not hitting nearly as hard because I feel like strength gear maybe is a little less prevalent. There's a lot of vigor gear. I feel like vigor gear is everywhere. But yeah, Rangers don't seem to hit as hard. There's fewer traps. The barbs have to make some decisions between HP and damage output now, so that feels good. Like overall, even as a solo cleric in the crypts, as long as I'm not in HR, if I come upon a two-man, I feel like I actually have a chance to do something at this point, which was never the case before, which is really cool.
Yeah, it feels a lot better. We kind of touched on Wizard a little bit and like some of the powerful abilities. I kind of maybe want to talk about that a little bit. Explosion, very cool spell. Might be too strong.
Maybe just a little bit,
but maybe not even the numbers. I think at least from my perspective, playing against it, playing with it, I think the main problem with the spell is when you get hit by it, you don't know that it's on you. It's not very obvious that you have been stuck by an explosion. I feel like if there was some kind of audio cue or some kind of visual thing where like you just know that you're exploded, you would play differently. Like I feel like I'm just getting free because I explode somebody. They don't realize they're exploded, and then I time my fireball with the detonation of the explosion. I kill them, boom. But when I get hit with an explosion and I know it's on me, I back up, pop a bandage, pop a heal, whatever it is, and I play defensively, and it's not a problem because it's like a delayed effect. That's like the give and take of that kind of a spell where sure it's a lot of damage, but it's like a delayed debuff, so you have time to play defensively before the damage goes off. Sure, I think the damage might just be a little too high. I think maybe you could lower it by 5-10 base maybe, or lower the range on it. But I think the biggest problem with it is the fact that people don't know they're getting hit by it, and they don't know they're not acting correctly when they do get hit by it because they don't know what's happening. And next thing you know, they're just dead, and they're like, "What the hell just happened?" That's my thing.
I think it also does. Correct me if I'm wrong. As opposed to fireball, which has reduced damage on the splash, explosion does the full damage to everything within its radius.
Believe so, yeah.
So it is a little bit more powerful than a fireball for that reason, just because you can stick it to somebody, and if, like you said, if they're not aware that they have it on them and they back into their team and it blows up on the whole team, that's a lot of damage. But I do think that as players get a little bit more used to it, because I like your idea of like maybe lowering the range just a little bit. If you have to take that risk of sticking it to somebody when they're possibly in range to sprint up to you, and then you're going to get hit with that explosion too, on top of them, like a fighter or a barb or a rogue or anything sprinting at you, that explosion could really backfire on you. So I think maybe leave the damage alone, experiment with lowering the range a little bit. It could be good.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing. So I was playing cleric earlier, or a couple days ago, when the pat first hit, and I got hit with an explosion. I just W keyed at this team. I got a triple kill with the explosion. They all just died, and I'm like, guys, there's counterplay. You see, you just hold W.
The best kind of counterplay.
Yeah.
So, question: how did you know you got hit? Did you see the? And
I saw him cast it.
Okay,
I just saw him cast it, and it wasn't a fireball, so I just knew.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
All right.
But
is there a debuff indicator that comes up at all? Like, I know there's no visual or audio, but
I think you get a debuff.
Okay,
you might get debuff.
I think you get the little debuff, but actually, what I like about it is that it reminds me of, I hate to draw the comparison to WoW, but it's just the thing I know the best when it comes to like a PvP game like this. I like the way they're fleshing out the wizard, because they're sort of giving it these different play styles if they want to hone in on those things. I'd love to see more like passives that give them the ability to like laser focus on things, like give them the the fire mage where they're just building up these detonations on you and then get their one big nuke off on you to try to one shot you, but it's kind of like high risk because it's a little build up. I think it's cool. I'm glad that they're experimenting with it. I think shortening the range is probably the right idea.
Yeah, right now it's 8 range, and like that's the same as zap, which means basically just not it's different, but it's generally a higher damage zap right now. If it was like 6, maybe 5 meters, where it's like it's risky to go for an explode, but you're getting rewarded for it. I would like that much more. Yep. That's how I would balance it. And then obviously give it I think an audio cue is very important for getting stuck. Just so people.
It's very quiet.
Yeah, you have no idea it's happening until you're dead. That's the problem. Like when I get hit by a curse from a warlock, I know I got hit by a curse.
It's really loud.
Very loud. I'm cursed now. I have to like back off a little bit. But right now I get hit by an explode. If I don't realize it, if I'm not looking, like if for a small red hue around me, I'm gonna blow up in 3 seconds, and that's that's not good. But back onto the topic of balance. Besides that, it feels really good. The only time I've like been like this is busted this season has been when I step in ranger traps. Every season, I just, no matter what, it never feels good to step into a ranger trap. You just step into it and you die, and you're like, I guess I should have just been staring at the ground. But I'm not even gonna open this can of worms because I talk about it every week and everyone fucking hates it. But traps are stupid. Get rid of them. All right. Sorry. So
do you want to hear a little suggestion I made for what they should do for traps instead?
Delete ranger? Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Get rid of trap mastery and change traps to a skill. Get rid of the trap entirely and make a trap like a tripwire like oil firebomb, so that when you trigger it, it explodes and deals a little bit of damage over time while you're walking through it and slows you.
I like that.
So it's a deterrent and it's an area denial thing. So like during a fight, especially if it pops off, it's gonna affect the fight. But it's not this. You just got stopped dead in your tracks and now you're dead.
I like that idea so much, especially for trios. The idea that the first player through the door, especially if they're invisible, sets off some fire on the ground, and now other people don't want to push with it. Maybe they back. I like that. That's a good one.
I'm way better.
It feels bad to step in a trap. You're dead almost no matter what. And it feels bad to die to an invisible rogue who's just been sitting there like the whole match.
Let's talk about
empty
the rogue.
Inventory.
Let's talk about the rogue, because invis as a function is something that we've just kind of all grown to get used to, no matter how much we like it or dislike it. But is there a world where Dark and Darker doesn't have invis outside of invis potions, which follow the rule of you cannot move? And there's a very loud slurping noise, and everybody knows that you just went invisible because you're not there anymore and you drank a potion.
Oh, we've heard about Song of Shadow, but I'll let that slide.
You're playing a fucking song. If you walk into a room and you hear the bard play, and he's like, "Where'd they go?" That's on you, dude.
Yeah, I think there's a way to redesign Rogue to make it a fun thief class. Like it already does a lot of thief things very well. It's also really, really good at bossing. It has high DPS. I don't There must be a way to remove invisibility without nuking the class
Mm.
because it has double jump, it has hand crossbows, it has throwing, poison, rupture. Like it has a lot of interesting tools. It just feels so bursty that it doesn't to me need the addition of invisibility. It can just drink an invisibility potion like everybody else can. And so there's got to be a way to do it that doesn't fundamentally destroy the class.
What if
And
you
I
can't
just
attack for 2 seconds after you come out of invis?
I think no one would use it then.
I think the
I don't
problem
know
is
though,
being able to
maybe.
move while you're in Viz, right? Because like
I agree.
basically a rogue could pop in Viz in the safety of being behind cover, move into a room and being like a really good spot without like having to work to get to that spot. They kind of just get there for free.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the problem because like you could be chasing a rogue, you'd be chasing a team with a rogue, and you lose sight of them for 1 second, 2 seconds. They invis behind cover. They could be anywhere now.
Right.
Whereas if you know they can't move, you could like reduce their potential areas where they could be because you know they won't be on cover. You lost sight of them. They have to be here, here, or here. They can't move 10 steps and be anywhere in the room after you lost sight of them for a second. I
How
think
does
that's
that
problematic.
How does that feel for a rogue player, though? I know we're gonna make the joke of fuck rogue players. Nobody cares about their feelings, but
I agree.
you know, we've all played rogue at one point or another. It's a fun class, and
Mhm.
the fantasy behind the class is really enjoyable. The hit and run, the tricks, the dirty tricks, the poisons, the knives, all that shit. It's cool. It's a fun class. And I think that the class is at its best when it plays that hit and run style, and I think they could build around designing it that way, rather than it just being this nuclear bomb that just, you know, it's literally a landmine. If you step on it, you're just dead. Removing the ability to move while invisible is, I think, a good thing, but at the same time, if you do that, no one's going to want to play the class, or they're just going to only play that one camp thing, and it doesn't really remove the problem of you walked into a room, you didn't know the rogue was there, he one shot you. It still fucking sucks. If there's a way to make rogue like lean into that more hit and run tricks of trade kind of like, you know, dirty deeds fantasy, I think people would enjoy that more than reliance on I left clicked you twice because you didn't see me and you died.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what they could do. Like maybe I don't know. Maybe get rid of just hide, but maybe they have a perk where if you get a kill, you go invis for 2 seconds. So you get in, you go in all in, you get the kill, and then you can kind of get a clean disengage, and like maybe that kind of saves their class identity. They still
I
have
like
some
that
kind of
one.
version of hide, but like they can't just like get the opener for free and get a free pick just by like not playing well.
Yeah. Or maybe when they get low on health, similar to how when fighter gets to 40, it gets adrenaline spike. You can have it so when they get to 40, it pops smoke bomb and invis, another invis for like 4 seconds. But they don't get ambushed and they can't just use it, you know, the entirety of the map.
I don't want to gut the class. Like I understand
Yeah.
Rogue is a fun class to play, and I want people to be happy playing the class. But you got to think there's probably more despair and suffering being caused by rogues than
Mhm.
there is happiness and joy from rogue players playing rogue. I would think. I could be wrong there.
I tend to agree. Sky, you got any ideas on what to do with rogue?
I mean, the 2 second thing I just kind of said off the cuff, I agree. I don't think, you know, having thought about it for another 2 minutes, if you didn't allow them to attack for 2 seconds after coming out of invis, yeah, I think people would just not do it. Now, yeah, I think the big question is, do we want to, like Nate said, allow them to have that first hit for free, basically, or not? And then, you know, if you're going to allow them pickpocket, invis has to stay around in some way, shape, or form, right?
True.
So you have to figure out that happy medium. I don't know if reducing the steps helps a lot. I think we talked about having an audio cue for if a rogue does go invis close enough to you. I think there should be an audio cue, and maybe the further they are away, the harder it is to hear that sound, something like that. Like there just needs to be a little bit of a risk reward proposition for a rogue. And the one thing they absolutely shouldn't be able to do is jump at you, go invis and come out of invis and get an ambush bonus. That's for damn sure. Like that is just horseshit. And we've talked about that for ages. Like that's got to go away. So little things like that could be tweaked. But no, I certainly don't have the silver bullet. I think they just need to change the dials a little bit. They learn from their poor to common normal dungeon implementation. If they tweak the dials a little bit and they don't go overboard, I don't think the rogue players will, well, some of them will, but most of them will be reasonable about it and not cry too much as you try to shift the class away from being a nuclear bomb.
The rogue is the class that I feel like they've not learned their lesson with, because we had this exact problem not that long ago, and then rogue got just gutted to the point that it was just basically unplayable, and then it slowly got buffed back right to the same problem, and nothing really changed about it. It's fundamentally the same issue. So I feel like the rogue is the class that they are struggling with the most to find an identity for that isn't just the landmine. And I'm hoping that when, you know, the new content patches come and the druid comes and the new map comes, they've got some other ideas cooking for the class. But I also want to talk about the wizard. We already kind of touched on explosion, but wizard is a class that has been I liken wizard to like champions in League of Legends that become very meta defining, and the entire game is kind of built around either pick or ban with them. Wizard kind of feels the same way when it's really strong. The class is either super dominant and everybody has to have a wizard, otherwise you're trolling, or it's kind of shit and it gets rolled over. It feels like it's never really been in the middle ground, maybe once or twice. Do we think wizard needs any kind of like fundamental spell changes, especially having tested things like Greed is Good and Project Crawl? Do we think that maybe something can be done to the class to change the way it plays so that it's not as toxic if it's really powerful and not as miserable if it's a little weaker?
Everyone has been saying like wizard OP, wizard OP, wizard OP. And I get it, but this is like the first playtest in a while. I played Wizard. Like I played like 50 to 100 games on Wizard this season, but I've mostly been playing Cleric, and I've been playing most of my games without Wizards, and they're not a problem for me. But I guess they're just like the noob stomp class or something where, like, if you're good at Wizard, you could just outplay people that don't know what they're doing, and like that might feel bad. But whenever I've just been destroying wizards, and I play a cleric, the class that's hard countered by wizards, I don't know. I just like explosion is the only thing I'm like, okay, this is like a problem. Everything else, maybe because I play so much wizard, I know how to play against them, so maybe that's it. But like they are a solvable puzzle, and if you know what a wizard could do, you could use that against them and just not play into their hand. There's so much counterplay to what a wizard is doing to you, and they get one shot by everything. So just hit them.
Yeah,
just hit them.
That's true. They do literally crumple like paper. Maybe I don't have a chat to refer to, but maybe some folks in your chats could chime in and give us an idea of what wizard is like to play at low gear now, because that used to be the class nobody wanted to play, and that's why it was always like the lowest representation, despite being really strong at certain points, because it was just so miserable to play without gear. Maybe the changes that they've made to it have made it maybe some of the gripes have been that wizard is now more popular because it's less miserable to play at the start, so people are getting exposed to it more. I sort of tend to agree with you that I don't think it's too much of a problem right now, but I think of it as the class that can make or break the game because of when we had situations like buff ball.
I thought it felt okay. I only spent, I'd have to go check my stats. I'd say I probably have 25 to 30 raids on my wizard. And with the changes that they made to rest, the fact that 10 spell is viable pretty quickly. Like, I don't need a BIS kit. I can go into high roller once, or shoot, I could even have a decent normal run and have enough knowledge that I can use maybe 8 or 9 spells fairly easily. And with rest being buffed, you don't need meditate anymore. And that feels really good to have wizard options without having to have a great kit. So I love that part. And when you combine that with the fact that magic missile can now actually kill some freaking mobs, then, and you don't have to hit everyone, especially the shield skellies. Like, I still, especially with the staff, have not mastered the art of only getting headshots with every magic missile, which you used to have to do in order to kill them. Like, now I can miss one or two and it's okay. They're still going to die, or I could just bonk them once. That it feels a lot better to me. I don't think they're OP by any means at lower levels. At higher levels, I've been fragged a couple times, but I agree with Nate. Like, as a cleric, I'm not as scared, but we also have good magic resist and shields and stuff that we can use too. So I think they feel okay. But I definitely take note. If the other team has a wizard, I don't downplay it, because I know my other two teammates are likely to die very quickly if they get hit. So
I think it's a glass cannon, so like it's doing its job, and it still gets melted. Up until today, I thought it was a little too strong, but now that I realized that we actually get unlockable throwing weapons, it gives every class a chance against them. So I can't really speak too much on it. I think it's probably fine. I feel like Instacast could maybe be looked at a little bit, but I don't know. I'll pass on this one.
Instacast like is problematic. Maybe not at the moment, but just going forward in general, if they keep adding more and more spells, and if they ever add like a pyroblast type spell, the fact that Instacast exists can make a spell like that in the future be problematic. I've thought about that before. Instacast explosion, kind of nuts, right? You could hardcast explode, instant cast second explode, and a guy has 2 explodes on them, and he doesn't even know they're on them, and he just dies. So like that's a thing you get to worry about. But yeah, I understand wizard powerful. Yes, very strong class, but there's counterplay to it. I've never fought a wizard and been like, man, there was just nothing I could do. At least me. But like I said, I could be the minority. I understand. I might be a little biased. I play wizard sometimes.
No, I think it's a reasonable take. I think my point of it being one of the characters that was meta defining is more thinking back to like Buff Ball, and I'm a little afraid that we're gonna run into that again. That since they just rebuffed Haste and Viz again, and I'm already seeing people kind of catching on to that and doing the Haste and Viz ignites and the clerics and the barb.
I've been saying for a while, stop that. Make it so you can't haste and viz other people. Like, that's the problem. That has always been the problem with Wizard, is that haste and viz is strong, yes, but it is stronger on a character with 170 HP and an axe. So that's the problem, I think.
All right, let's talk about the stat changes, because they are one of my favorite things about this patch, and I think they're why the balance actually feels so good, and especially that gear is so varied right now. It's actually like cool to see all the different kind of drops that you can get, and you can like theory craft the builds in your head on how you want to design your character around these new stats. Ken, how is that affecting the cleric life so far?
So just to give people context, like when we're talking about like the stat changes, so they have taken away the health buffs from strength and they moved them to vigor.
They didn't take it away. They changed it to waiting.
Yeah. And they split up the attack speed and movement speed from agility to agility and dexterity, and they put different stats on different pieces of gear, like regal gambesons, hound skulls, rugged boots, things that didn't have base stats on them before. They now have vigor. Cloth pants have dexterity, so that's kind of what we're talking about to give context. And just my initial thoughts, love it. I am thinking when gear drops, I have to think. And I have choices, and I'm like, oh, I want some health. I need some vigor. Oh, I need a little bit of damage. I'm gonna get a little strength over here. I'm kind of slow right now. I don't have 15 agi yet. All right, I have this ring, this necklace. Like when I'm putting together gear sets, I am thinking. I have choices, and it feels very satisfying to put together a kit that is functional. That's just my initial reaction. We can delve into it more, but I kind of just want to hear what you guys think so far. What about you, Sobad? Sorry, Sobad's been quiet.
I agree. I really like it. I think it makes you think, and almost everything is good now. They finally put stats, like you said, like there's even like your kind of just base. I don't even know what they're called. Cloth pants just have max health, and so it's like
padded. Cloth pants have dex.
Okay, and then one has vigor, and then one has just health in general. And so I think they're all good. Like especially for me as a fighter and a slayer at that. Every one of the stat splits is good for me. So like you said, when I pick up a piece of gear, I'm like, oh, it has agility, it has dex. Oh, it has vigor, it has health. Oh, it has action speed. Like all of them are great. And so it's fun to, instead of only make like, oh, I'm making a strength build, or oh, I'm making a strength agi build. It's now like all of those stats are incorporated somewhere. and almost everything I pick up seems good. And that's why I think HR is so pleasurable right now, is because it's easy to get geared. And when you kill somebody, they always have something. Like you just look at each piece and you're like, okay. And it's fun to see the max rolls where it's like, dex plus vigor plus like 2% HP. Like everything feels really, really good. And all the new jewelry is great. I think they did a wonderful job with the stat split. I was afraid we would get a lot of sort of shit loot and it would make it like if there'd be a ton of dead rolls, but I feel like everything is good.
Yeah, very few dead rolls, like surprisingly. And like that was like a complaint that I had previously where from a wizard perspective, there just like weren't stats that I was chasing after. It was just magic power and that's it. And it was kind of boring. But now like because I've been playing a lot of cleric, but I have been playing wizard and it's just interesting. There's different gear sets for different play styles that I want to build, and it's just very satisfying.
Picking up the gear and running through. Actually, I was gonna segue into something that we talked about on the podcast, but Scott, talk to me about the gear stats because you play a bard, which is a class that wants every stat. Just give me all the stats. I need all of it right now.
This is a great path for bard because they had such a hard time gearing. Sorry to like interrupt, but they had such a hard time gearing, and now they just like have like knowledge rings is actually a huge for bard. But I'll let Arcane talk about it.
No, you're spot on. I'm digging it. Bard feels pretty good overall. I feel like I do find a lot of vigor, but that I may just be, I don't know, unfairly judging that, I guess. But all in all, it feels okay. Okay to good. I do think knowledge, like Nate said, like we just need lots of knowledge, and I want resourcefulness. I want everything. I want the strength. There is no stat on a bard that you don't want, like you said, Odin. So I feel like I'm able to find a lot of it though. And Josh mentioned this several times. I think all of us have mentioned it at one point, but just the fact that if I do really need something, I can go to trade chat and get it right now and I can get it cheap makes bard feel pretty good overall. I think that may be the main factor that makes it feel pretty good is when I need to fill a gap for a high roller set, at least like base kit bard feels fine. Like going into normals, it's totally fine. Except the rapier is pretty bad. Like I do, it does take it. Like you have to, if you don't play Shriek of Weakness, like you're gonna be stabbing stuff in the head 6 or 7 times per mob. So Shriek is like mandatory again until you have a decent weapon. But yeah, all in all, the gear feels fun. It feels pretty balanced. I'm digging it so far.
So you're asking like, what am I building on cleric? Basically, all of the shitty pieces of gear you would never build before.
Yep.
Real Gambison, rugged boots, hound skulls, anything with vigor. I'm just vigor stacking. I'm just running around with 150 HP on a cleric with some like some knowledge and some magical healing, and I am a raid boss. I am an immovable object. You cannot stop me. I'm slow. I'm not gonna chase you down or anything, but I'm holding the fort. I am the ultimate support. I run Sank. I run all the heals, and after my team's dead, I'm reviving them. And it feels great.
That honestly, that is like, I almost feel like I want to see more stats because of how successful this has been. I just want to see where they could go with the stats because it's so cool. Like you said, having to actually think about your gear and not only having to think about it, but getting excited about like possible ways that you could build your character. Like I think most people wouldn't consider a full vigor cleric that's just there as the absolute stronghold tank that is just going to revive their teammates. I think people are immediately would think, gravitate towards, oh, we're going to stack as much, strength, vigor, will, knowledge, all these other stats, not focusing in so much on health. But the idea that you can go into the raid, find a bunch of really cool gear, go, I wonder if I could play this build, and then even like coordinating that with your team, like we're going to go all full move speed and we're going to try to play like hit and run versions of our classes, and we're going to do our best to be like hyper mobile and be really pesky. I just think there's so many cool ways to design a kit for your character now that the possibilities are almost endless.
100% agree. What about you, Sobi?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about on this podcast a lot, including with Soma, the idea of getting undead slaying and then a bunch of random stats, like they can just keep adding more affixes. I think we can get gold gain, we can get like 1 to 5 luck to roll onto pieces. Just like fun things that don't really like shake up the meta too much, but they enable us to build things like the regular interaction speed. You know, we want to make a full luck set and just see if we can get some legendaries or maybe a unique. But overall, I love the stat changes, and I think the items or the itemization is really, really good. And then the quest rewards giving randomly rolled legendaries, uniques, and even like Grim Smile are all fantastic. So we are in the right direction with that. And that kind of shifts us into what is to come. And when we talk about this, we're talking about One Peg's interview and kind of the upcoming roadmap for Dark and Darker, where Terrence mentioned that Christmas or early 2024 would be the next big content patch. So that will come what seems like sort of mid-wipe and mid-leaderboards for this season, which is going to have this new ice map with sounded like 3 players, a dragon, ice giants, the test server with solo self-found mode and solo crypts and druid. And so with all that, I just feel like there's more and more on the way, more crafting, more itemization, more classes, more skills, more perks. I'd like to see a little bit more added to Warlock too. I feel like Wizard is in a really strong spot now, which is good. Could need some little
Warlock is
tweaks.
suffering. Yeah.
But I feel like Warlock's still suffering a little bit, but they mentioned that they want to give it the ability to summon monsters. And that I feel like that's gonna probably put it right where it needs to be.
I'm not sure for. Like I said, I understand why you say Warlock is suffering. I just think all the problems that Warlocks have could just be solved with gold. I think they're just very gear dependent, kind of like how Wizard used to be, where like playing Wizard at like the lower levels of the lower end felt miserable, kind of like Warlock does right now. But once you like had a functional gear set, it feels good. Like I've played with geared Warlocks, I play against geared Warlocks, and I'm like, okay, once they have the ball rolling, the class is very functional. It just, I think getting there is hard. I think they need way more magical healing than is readily available on some pieces. Like they need like demon clads and demon grips to like be competitive at the high end, and that's
well, especially with
problematic.
the alchemist. That's the other issue, is the alchemist not offering blue books with magic healing just
Yeah.
you know, in droves. That's killing them. That is really painful.
Yeah, that's my take on the warlock, but I think that's a problem that's solvable. I don't think, but I do think they should have more spell stuff in the future. But I do disagree that I think people keep saying they're weak. I just don't think people are aware of how strong they are because they're not geared.
Yeah, they do feel, having played with Warlock quite a bit, they feel like they're designated to be Phantomized Bach when they have no gear. Like you cannot play a Curse Lock when you have no gear. You're griefing your team if you're doing that. I mean, there's, once you get like just the bare minimum of sustain on Curse Lock, it's fun to play solo, and you can really rack up gold very quickly by doing solo boss kills and solo HR really easily. Have very easy to survive with because you just swarm dance forever. But yeah, when you're in no gear, it's just something that I think they'll need to think about. Maybe as we start to address like minor pain points that we now start to see, where like you go into a raid and you drop some of your gray stuff because you picked up a green and now you have no weapon when you go back to the lobby. Those kinds of small things, maybe they can also start to tweak in like the starter sets to, you can choose to have a little bit more magic healing on your gear as a warlock so that it's actually playable at low gear, that kind of thing. More quests to maybe give. I don't know if it's healthy to have like base stats available to a character, like giving an inbuilt like +3 magic healing to warlock or something, because then I feel like they could just get completely insane with gear. But maybe there's a way to balance it and hard cap it. I don't know. The class design is really cool, but there's definitely some balance that needs to be done to it.
Agreed.
And just to bring this up, we're all stuck on the St. Nicholas quest where we just can't kill 5 warlocks because they don't exist. Because I know I am. I'm sure. I know everyone I know is. We just can't find them, dude. They're an endangered species that everybody wants to hunt. They're like a mammoth. It's weird. But yeah, miserable.
Yeah, the Great Plains warlocks are going out of getting extinct.
Miserable.
How do we feel about
Josh,
the new rank system, boys? Sorry, Odin. If you got it someplace you want to. Okay, is that where you're going? Okay. Right.
That's exactly what I was about to bring up.
You go first.
I haven't delved much into it because I've been doing. I wanted to challenge myself to see how long it would take me to unlock a 3,000 gold stash on solo fighter and crypts. Because I like playing solo PDR longsword fighter. It's just challenging. It's a fun build to play. I love longsword. It's the main reason I find fighter appealing. It took me quite a while because normals there's really just not a whole lot of money you can make even going Inferno. There's just a limit to it, especially because you can't carry gold bags with you.
Yeah, that hurts. Yeah.
But having gotten into now right before the podcast for a couple hours of doing solo HR on my Ranger, I noticed that at low ranks, nobody's fighting at all. Like people are just avoiding each other as much as possible and trying to farm. And I think that's kind of the way they wanted it. Where players that are more aggressive are automatically just the people that are moving up in the ranks, and you can expect to have a more casual experience at low ranks. The rank is really cool to have something to move you forward. I looked at the points, and I don't know how I feel looking at the leaderboards right now. There's already people in demigod and solos for Goblin Caves, and I don't know if that should be something that's achievable within the first week because it makes the top rank feel kind of not pointless, but it sort of lowers its value in my opinion by a little bit. But looking at the points for entry for crypts, it's like 3 or 4 times as much to enter crypts, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. You can get to demigod in like a quarter of the time that you can get to it in HR crypts. I don't know if that's just because you have bosses in Inferno, so they expect you to get more points, but it costs a lot. So if you die, it really sucks.
Yeah, I kind of like it. I kind of hate it. I don't like. I think the problem for me is I don't agree with how some of the stats are. The AP points are distributed. Like what's valued. Because right now, so say I queue for a high roller match with my team. We're 3 out of 15, and we kill 3 teams. And if I want to pick up their gear, and I'm gonna take the gear out of the dungeon, I am stacking AP points because I need. If you want to like go net positive on AP, you have to wipe lobby. You have to go hell, kill boss, and then you have to fill your inventory with treasure and extract with treasure. And if you're not extracting with treasure, you're getting minus. So so now I just like have to let these really good gear sets burn because I can't take them out because I'll be losing rank because of it. And it feels bad going into a game, killing everybody, killing a boss, and looting the treasure hoard, and still sometimes going negative because I wanted to loot some stuff off of a player. That feels weird to me. I think they understand that's a problem, but
they lowered the cost to be similar to Goblin Caves. Do you think that would fix it? Because I think it's like literally a quarter of the cost to enter Goblin Caves.
I mean, it would help, but I still think that you're getting a disproportional, way too many points for looting rubies and gems instead of like getting points for killing players, killing bosses, killing mobs. I think the point you're getting too many points for looting. I think just treasure.
Maybe having a point system associated with the kind of value of the gear that you pull from players that you leave with could alleviate that.
Or maybe even if you're just like, even if you loot the hoard, you get the points for the stuff you picked up, even if you drop it. So you can still take out the stuff you want, but not be forced to take out rubies. But that might be able to get abused. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But if it was working properly, I don't know.
They said that there's one thing that we are forgetting that I think might have kind of been factored into the system of having the extra storage space is that resourcefulness was supposed to give us more bag space that we can carry into the raids with us. So that might have been factored in, and that's something that they Josh, I don't know if you could tell if you know if they were planning to get that in for the Christmas patch.
Yeah, it sounded like that was coming with Christmas. I actually originally thought it was coming with this one because they talked about it a lot in the dev Q&A. The idea that the more resourcefulness you have, the sort of more pockets you have, they're calling it a dynamic bag system. And so that's those two kind of empty Tetris blocks under our inventory. And kind of like Ken's saying, even for me, if I bring in, like 40 arrows, which I don't feel like is that much, it's pretty much necessary even in solos. If I bring in 40 arrows, like 2 stacks of potions, bandages, like a gold coin bag, and like 2 or 4 Francisca axes, my inventory space is I only have like 12 slots to loot. And like he's saying, at the end of the raid, it's like I have to drop everything I have in order to end up positive. There's been a couple times where I've been forced to take a fight by somebody pushing my spawn box, and maybe that fight goes for multiple minutes. Even if I kill them, they're only worth 10 points. Whereas, like Nate's saying, you can wipe like a third of the lobby, and somehow you end up with like plus 10 points, and that is weird. But I kind of like that they're not focusing on PK or like player killing, because I feel like there is a lot more to it. And if it was rewarded more heavily, people would just constantly try to spawn push each other. And so I kind of like that we've gotten away from the leaderboard aspect of just player kills and just like W keying around trying to kill everyone off. But there needs to be some adjustments made. Overall, I think the MMR is a good system, especially if there's only like 4 or 5 total brackets. It seems fine. And I don't know how people are already demigod. I've been playing really well, especially like I mentioned today. I haven't died yet, and I didn't really rank up that much. I went from like Wanderer 3 to Wanderer 1. So I didn't even get out of an entire bracket, like playing cracked for 8 hours straight. So I don't know if maybe just at the higher brackets, if people have only grinded one thing, maybe they're alone in their lobbies. And like you said, for Goblin, they're probably just killing Troll and then hitting all the locked boxes, because it is weighted. So if you get a Marvelous chest or a gold chest, for example, and you get purple or legendary treasures, they're worth a lot of points. And so part of it's RNG and part of it's kind of PvE chasing. But I think it's a really good start to the system. And I like the fact that the leaderboard, it's not split anymore between like 8 categories. We don't have like PKs and treasure hunting and like most escapes. It's just, basically adventure points. And so we just kind of have to figure out the calculations. But for sure, player kills need to be worth more than like a normal skeleton.
So
Yeah,
Phil
and
in the
then-
chat over here brought up something. I want to get your guys' take on it. Do you know if it's a known bug that the escape multiplier is always set to 1? Like, no
Isn't that
matter
supposed
what.
to be?
Well, you're supposed to get, I thought, some kind of additional escape multiplier if you extract from either HR or Inferno. I've never seen it be anything other than 1. So
Yeah,
why,
that's news to me. I didn't even know it was a
why
thing.
would we think that would be there if it was always set to 1?
I think it was bugged. I'm pretty sure at the start of the
Okay.
season, your streak multiplier was going up like 2 and 3x, and that's why people have so many points. Because they mentioned in the hotfix that the adventure points have been reduced, the amount you can gain.
Wait,
and so
you
I
said
think
streak.
Yeah,
Is
I
that
think
what it
like
is? It's a streak multiplier.
I
and
think it
not
was a streak
I
multiplier.
escaped the dun. Okay,
Right, like so like
it
if
may
you
be
escape
a-
2 and then 3x and then 4x, so I think people were getting way more points than they were supposed to, which means some people are probably, going to be almost, we're not really going to be able to catch them anymore. But they caught it pretty early, and so now they just need to maybe you get like 0.1 per escape up to 10, and then you're at 2x from that point forward and never gets any higher. I think that would be fine.
Well, I think it's just a terminology issue, because it sounds like Phil interpreted it the same way that I did, which is that if you escape the dungeon, you get an additional multiplier of some sort. So if it's a streak that you're actually basing that off of, it, I think the description should probably reflect that. So escape streak multiplier would be perfect.
Yeah, because if you don't escape, you're not getting any points anyway. You get 0.
Yeah, what do you
No,
guys feel about
you
that?
get minus 600.
Yeah,
Well, minus the entry cost. Yeah.
I don't know if I like that, because I feel like if I do really, really good and then I die, I should still get something. Like, it feels shitty if I killed like 4 players in Goblin. My inventory, like, I've already suffered the loss. Like, at that point, I'm like, well, where's my points from everything I did? Like, I should still get some.
Insult to injury.
Yeah, but maybe not. I don't know.
Do the player kill points scale as you go up? Because it seems like they're pretty low. Phil mentioned that as well.
They get lower. I'm
Yeah.
getting
They
3
get
points a
lower.
kill. That's what it
Oh
feels like.
my.
Maybe because I'm killing players that are lower ranked than me.
Wow.
Maybe
Yeah,
that's
it
what it
feels like it
is,
should be a
but-
little bit more. I totally agree that you don't want to make it
wonder.
so that people are just absolutely spawn rushing,
Friendly.
like Josh said. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want to completely remove friendly player interactions, but like 3, that feels really bad.
I mean,
Really
also,
bad.
if you're going up an MMR bracket, theoretically, you'd be getting more because they are a higher rank as well. So they should be better. So the fight should go longer. And then you're losing. Like, for me, when the fights go back and forth, I love getting good fights. But sometimes I'm like, this is a 3 or 4 minute fight. I just lost half the map. I'm not going to get any points this round. And so
Yeah,
at
no,
that
I
point,
agree.
if I do finish them off, like, I should get a lot of points. Like, I just killed I'm I don't really know all the ranks. So whatever the higher ranks are, like if you kill them, that should definitely be a lot of points.
Yeah.
Because they got to that skill bracket. Like they're a good player.
I also don't like the fact that like the higher ranks are like gated behind a flat point thing. I think there should be like the top 10 players are demigods, and the whoever is a demigod is always changing with whoever the top 10 is. It like does not have it behind a flat 30,000, whatever the points are. What points is for it. I think that's kind of silly, especially when it's like pretty easy to just grind it, and and theoretically by the end of the season we could have thousands of demigods, which kind of
Yeah.
takes
That
away
defeats
from
the
it.
point.
Yeah, it defeats the point of it, like the prestige of it. Whereas if it's like the top 10 players, top 100, whatever number you decide on, you're always fighting for it, and then people are always like trying to fucking go for it or fight the people who are and knock them down, and it's a battle. It's almost like grinding Warlord in classic WoW or something, or you're just grinding forever. I know that sounds miserable, but awesome at the same time. But yeah, I don't know. It just seems kind of easy to game. Like if
Yeah.
you're just a PvEer who is super efficient at farming mobs, looting treasure, and getting out, you're getting rewarded way more than somebody who might be like a better player. I don't know. I don't even know where I'm going with this, right? I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I like where we started with the
Mhm.
adventure points thing. It's a cool concept, and it definitely gives players something interesting to look at, and it gives you feedback on how you're doing in the dungeon more than just keeping track of like how many
Mhm.
skeletons you killed. It's just it's a good way to track, and it does give you some level of separation from the player base, so that the MMR is at least in some way visible, so that you have a rank that you care about. It does give you that extra level beyond just losing your gear. Of if I die in this dungeon, I'm losing. I could drop 10 ranks on the leaderboard, and people are gonna see that. I care about that. I think that aspect of it's cool, but it definitely, from the different points that have been brought up, it definitely needs work. And I wonder if there's a chance that they change it entirely when they introduce this arena system that they're talking about. Which, any thoughts on this? Does anybody? I know Josh, you said you're not too keen on it. I'm kind of excited about it.
I mean, so just to sum up the last thing, I think like with quests, the MMR and the seasonal brackets that we have now with rewards that will transfer next season for the effort you put in this season, that and quests are great. Both need to be tweaked a little bit. And then arena, I don't know. For me, it's like Tarkov. It's like it already feels like an arena game to me. Like especially Goblin, it's a static map. There's almost no RNG outside of loot, and so it's essentially already an arena for like 7 players or 9 players. And same with the other maps. So I don't know. Like I guess if we had like an actual gladiator arena where it's just straight 3v3, do you bring gear in? Is it equalized? Like I think it could be fine. I don't really like arenas in my games that much. I typically don't do them because I like the PvE aspect. I like the ability to rat. It's more my style. But I don't think it would be bad for the game, especially if we have a Steam release and a console release with crossplay. The numbers will only keep going up. And so it's nice to give people more options of more maps, more quests, more classes, and an arena. So I'm down. And if it's separate, because right now you get ranked in Goblin and you get ranked in Crypt. I don't think being ranked in both gives you double rewards, right? It's like either of whichever your highest rank is in either of those, you'll get the title and the skin and the rewards. So if we had that same thing for arena, I think that'd be fine because then people could just do arena if they wanted to.
Yeah, I think I don't know if people would like having. I don't know if people would like having that degree of separation to where it's like there's no gear in arenas. You could play ranked and get the same rewards everybody else are getting from going the dungeon, which inherently feels riskier and more involved because you're bringing in stuff that you've worked for. I like the idea of the arena just from a pure perspective of someone who loved WoW Arena for many years, but I don't know how well that would fit into the sort of the atmosphere of the rest of the game.
If arenas like boom, I wake up tomorrow, arenas are in, I would play them. I would probably have fun with them. That being said, I don't think that's the direction we should go. I feel like it might take away from the game as a whole, and it might hurt it in the long run. I think in the short term, I would get a big hit of dopamine, and I would have fun, and I would play it a lot. but I think it will be bad for the game over the long term. That's just
Agreed.
my take.
I think it should be around in small, limited time quantities. Like if
Like
you
tournaments.
did weekend,
Yes, that would be
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
Yep. Saturday night or
Especially-
Friday nights, arena night. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Weekend tournaments. And if they're like, if we don't just do strict 3v3s or what have you, if we actually get really fun with it, my favorite arena in any game ever was Mountain Blade, because it was always different and it was really awesome. It would be like 3v3v3v3, or it would just be like 12v12. And then, the remnants from those brackets, suddenly it's like 1v1v1, like, it's like 8 teams of 1, or it could be 2 teams of 4. Like, it just randomly places you in different brackets and different team formats, but it's always in an enclosed arena. So it always felt different and fun and challenging, and it would give you weapons. So it could be like, okay, now like you're all fighters, or like everyone's a rogue. So they could play with that a lot, and I think it would be cool.
So Robert
yeah, I
from
think the
chat
game
over
should-
here.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. No, you're good, man. Just real quick to tack on to the arena idea is, well, Robert said, what if we had it locked behind questing? What if you had to quest to unlock arena mode?
And then what is it, like a
or specific gear that you could unlock? So maybe the arena is around, but questing allowed you to unlock better base kits for the arena, something like that. Robert, sorry if I misinterpreted your chat here, but I think that's what he was getting at. Probably the latter more than the former. So if questing allowed you to unlock better base kits to enter the arena with, and maybe we combine that with like a limited time idea, is that something that...
I think I like that part. Also, if we can't bring gear in and it's just like randomized modes, or like you just go in base kit, it's equalized fights. And then like if let's say we get dailies or weeklies, and it's like get 10 kills in the arena, and then you get points, like you get arena points, and you can use that to buy gear, kind of like we can do with candy. And then you bring that into the actual game. I don't think that would take away from the actual game very much, because everybody would be like, oh, let's just do arena for like an hour and then we'll go dungeoning. Like that could be a fun warm up too if it's just equalized.
Yeah.
I'm just not sold on it personally.
Maybe, like,
it would be fun. It would be fun. I just worry that it would just take away from the game.
Yeah, if they never
I feel
add it,
you. I
I'm
could
not
be
going to
wrong.
be mad. Yeah.
I
could go without it.
I like your idea, Scott, of it being an event, because I feel like they could really lean into that too. And like, Josh and I were talking yesterday on his stream that we were like, they had hired somebody to be like the lore writer for Iron Mace now, and they're gonna like flesh out the story a little bit more, which is great, because I think that's something this game really needs, is to like give it a little bit more atmosphere, expanded outside of just the dungeon. Lean into this tavern. The land is swept by darkness. We're dealing with all these, the aftermath of whatever wars or whatever happened. Give us the gladiators are in town this weekend, and everybody's got a chance to train, and we're all going to have these fights, and there's going to be, something announced in the town square, and there's prizes and stuff like that. There's a lot of cool ways that they could expand on that. So I like your idea of it being a limited time event, even if it's like on the weekends, just because I think then more people get access to it too. I don't like the idea of locking things behind progression that players will never get to see because they're casual. And I think casual players just won't like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's fair.
I like that. Like a tournament of champions, and it comes around each weekend. Also, if it was bracketed, so like you didn't have to be best in the world, like each bracket is like 64 players. And then if you get like top 3, you get, whatever. I don't know, like a redstone shard or like a bluestone shard. Like they could put rewards in that would make it worth your time, especially if it's like a 2-hour event. And if it's equalized, gear, or you can't go in with gear, you wouldn't really be getting anything. So it would be fun to be like, I got a bluestone shard, combine emote.
Yeah, stuff like that would be cool. I think the game would just benefit from cool events like that in general. Like the arena events sound cool, but like this, just any kind of events, like weekend events, monthly events, whatever it is, just to keep things fresh and interesting. It'll bring people who like are taking a break. It'll bring them back, and then they'll get hooked again. And I don't know. I'm all for events. I think a lot of the stuff that people have been talking about could be solved by just like making them short little events every now and then, put them in the rotation, and just keep things fresh and interesting. But I think an arena game mode in general, it isn't that game. Go play For Honor or something. Respectfully.
Yeah, I actually had a thought that I've discussed a few times before. Any Destiny players, once or former, anybody who's played Destiny here before?
A little bit.
I think so. A while back, there's been so many discussions about different game modes now that it gets muddled to the point where I don't even know if it was Iron Mace that discussed this or if it was community members that discussed this. But there was this idea being tossed around of like a 5-person raid where there were other 5-man teams in the raid, and it was to go like kill Kuma the dragon or something. I'm thinking about a concept similar to making it a little less gamey, but the Gambit mode from Destiny, where you're focused on these like PvE objectives, but then there are opportunities for the teams in short windows to sort of sabotage each other and try to put them behind each other because they're racing towards an objective. I think that's something that could work really well for Dark and Darker, especially because Iron Mace seems so keen on like just continuously making the game bigger and like having all these really grand maps with tons of stuff to do on them. What do you think we could have a 5v5v5v5? Would that be too much? Would it just be 2 teams of 5? Do you think a big raid that is like something that your team is working towards for a while, where you're fighting teams together or fighting against each other? Is that something that you guys want to see in the game?
I've always been of the mindset, the more people you can get into the dungeon, the better. If you could fit 100 people into the dungeon and it not lag, do it. All right. I want that's chaos. I mean, obviously, make them out bigger if that's the case. Obviously, I'm exaggerating a little bit here, but I think 5s could work in this game. I'm not sure if 5s could work in Crypt's map just because of the architecture and how narrow the hallways are and stuff. But we're talking about like you could do 5 teams of 5 on Ruins, and it would probably work. Maybe 4 teams of 5 on Ruins, and it would probably work. And it would probably be sick. And they could obviously design maps around those player sizes, and it'd be cool. I think 5 might be the max you could do for like having multiple teams, like 4 teams. Anything higher than that, it might just be like 2 teams, like 10 on 10, which is crazy, which should be like some kind of event thing. But
yeah,
I love that idea. I think the grander and more epic you can make battles and combat in this game, you should go it. You should try. You should experiment. Like if they just wanted to experiment right now, they could do it on the Ruins map. And I think it would be interesting, a little experiment. And then if it turns out to be successful, then they could put some development hours into that kind of a game mode in the future. I don't know, but I love that idea. That sounds amazing.
Josh, I think you said yesterday that you would love to have big teams spawning at the opposite corners of each other to fight each other.
Guild Wars, baby.
Like Nate said, Ruins is perfect. 4 teams of 5, and you get 1 on each corner. That puts 2 modules between each team on every side. You could rush mid. That's absolutely the best map. Your idea is really fun too. We used to talk about that a lot back when we thought Kuma was going to be a raid. That would give you like an increased chance to get an artifact. I like the idea of 5v5 there, or not even a versus mode. You could actually have a fully functional PvE mode where 2 teams or even more are racing through their PvE. And like, let's just say, just as an example, you're like racing down a corridor and there's 4 corridors that all lead to Kuma. And then you got a DPS Kuma down, and like, the fastest people out of their corridor that have the best comp and like, the best coordination, whoever gets the most DPS gets the drops, or, maybe it's PvP afterward, whatever it is. All those ideas I think work really, really good for this game. It's like a big dopamine hit to even think about it. And the devs mentioned before, guilds and guild wars. So I don't know. I think if we get 5 maps for, 1s, 2s, and 3s, and then we dive into guilds with like 9v9s, and then after that we can look at like 5v5 with like a dragon raid or something like that. I mean, the game is flushing up really nice. So here, I'm just going to detour a little bit. The game is done very well, and they even said it's exceeded expectations. And once we get to Steam and consoles, the sales will also multiply. And like right now, currently, Iron Mace is moving to a bigger office. They said the physical space was one of their biggest boundaries. And so now they're going to be able to hire more devs. And so we're going to get more of this stuff sort of more often. Do you guys think anything else needs to be sold, or is like the emotes good? this is like gonna be a hot take, but I actually didn't mind when we had to pay for classes.
Mm,
But like, if we get more emotes for sale, is that all we need? Just like skins and emotes?
skins and emotes do really well, man. I mean, it's like the number one reason that Fortnite is dominating the market, and because they do all these crossover events and they sell 1 million skins. I mean, of course, the general player base of Fortnite tends to be a little bit younger, not to generalize too much, but it definitely appeals to their senses a bit more. But the lizard skins were such a fucking hit. Everybody loves the lizard skins, and even though you don't see people using them that much, there's still everybody loves the lizard skins. There was memes about it
Lizard's
forever,
good. Yeah.
and it like functionally the skin sucks, and like everybody knows it, but people still like running it, and it has its niche uses. There's so many ways they could expand it, and they've talked about giving us things like the auction hall. They could maybe sell the ability to have more auction slots. I know that kind of teeters into the realm of pay to win. People might not like that, but maybe if we get guild halls, you can buy decorations for your guild halls. Give us 3D
Yeah,
spaces.
I like that one.
I think that'll be a thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
cosmetics in any sense is the best way to generate revenue for your game. Look at the best, most profitable game. Well, not maybe the best, but the most profitable games like in the business: League of Legends, Counter Strike, Fortnite.
Mhm.
How are all these games monetized? Cosmetics, visuals, MTXs. Like the old subscription models out. Like big box prices is not how you're making your money these days. The games that like make money in the long run over years and years and years are cosmetic games, and that's what they should focus on. I don't think they should like put a ton of their resources into it because they have a game to develop, obviously. But like every time they release a skin that looks cool, I'm buying it. I know all my friends are buying it, and I know hundreds of other people that are probably buying it too. Like they're just keep doing what they're doing. I think it's fine. I'm gonna buy all the emotes. If you give me 7 different lizard skin colors, I'm buying them all. I already have the first 3. I'll buy purple, I'll buy pink, I'll buy yellow. Just
Gold lizard when?
Gold lizard when, dude. I'll buy it.
We're gonna need more emote wheels in game pretty soon. You're gonna need like shifty,
Yeah,
control
true.
T. Yeah. I think there's a million ways that they could sell cosmetics, and I think that adding the features that the players have asked about, like physical meeting halls where you just start to expand the community, because I'll touch on a point that you brought up, and you've mentioned this many times, Josh, is that as players get better at a game like this, the sense of community starts to die down a little bit because people are just more aggressive. As people become more confident in their ability to take fights, they're going to take those fights more. So you've mentioned that you've been hearing less VoIP than before, and I think that just kind of comes with the territory of people becoming more experienced. They want to win. They want to take your gear. You still get your shenanigans, but having some things that sort of foster the community outside of the dungeon, but still within the game, and don't require you to be on Discord, because believe it or not, a large percentage of players don't care about being on a Discord or being on Reddit. They just want to play the game. I think those things will be a good space for them to incentivize people to spend money on cosmetics, because if you're in a space where people get to look at your cool shit that you bought so you could show other people your cool shit, people are going to buy cool shit.
Wow, mind blowing. Crazy.
Boom.
Worded perfectly too.
That's how I'd go to the sales pitch for it. If I was coming up to the meeting with Terry in the morning, like, listen, make cool shit, people will buy cool shit to show cool shit.
Oh man, I'm sold, dude. I want to buy some cool shit right now.
Yeah, where's it at? I'm ready to buy my guild hall already. I'm gonna drop $99.99. I come from I played a lot of Elder Scrolls Online, and that game is really cool. So you have guilds, and you can be a part of multiple guilds, and each guild could have its own hall, and you could buy it with there's in-game money and there's crafting, so you can get like mushroom sets and like all kinds of weird, fun sort of Skyrim themed items and events and guild halls. But then there's also the pay to purchase shop, where you could buy things that they're not necessarily better, but they are really interesting. And so there's like the keep of the undead general, and it's like literally $100, but people are going to buy it because it looks fucking cool. And like they want to, all your friends come in, and there's like long trestle tables filled with food, and you can have like little events there. And in that game, everybody has pets and mounts. And so all that stuff is kind of in there with you. So it is fun to see, like you're saying, like a physical space. And they mentioned that as well in the dev Q&A, the idea of trophies that come between seasons, and then you would put that in your hideout. So as we get player hideouts and then guild halls, those are good spaces to show off things like emotes and furniture and whatnot. And so I agree with you. That's probably a really good way to sell things. Plus the backlash from them selling classes last time is probably gonna be everlasting, I would say. That was some serious backlash.
I don't think it's a good idea for them to sell them again. It's just not a good.
All right, let's take some questions from chat. You guys have anything pressing that you want to know about or see and hear? And how has everyone else from chat been enjoying the games from everyone's chat? I think it's in, like you guys said, one of the best states of balance we've ever been in. There's a couple gripes, but things will be tweaked. And I think the new leaderboards and questing system, it's all just more to do in the same play space that we're used to, which is good.
Yeah, I've been having a blast. Like, and trust me, I wanted to come on here and just bitch about things that I hated, but I just don't. I've just been having a good time. It's just been good.
All right, this one's too good. They said Ken Nabi looks like he's going to hack the USS space station and then attack Spider-Man.
That's true. That's true.
He's what we call a method actor.
Yes.
Heard of Joaquin Phoenix? Look it up.
Machine Gun Nabi.
Oh, dude, Thanksgiving dinner. I walked into my uncle's house in Jersey, and the first thing my cousin said
Is his name Osborne?
Oh,
sorry.
Yeah, actually.
Go ahead.
No, they said I look like Machine Gun Kelly, and I was like, "Oh, this is miserable."
Was MGK in the new Spider-Man?
No.
Okay. I was wondering what the tied up reference was there, but I just kind of believed it. You do kind of look like a Spider-Man villain.
Hell yeah, like the Hawk guy. What's his name? Michael Keaton.
Yes. Yes, that's what I was thinking of. We,
Go
ahead.
Mine's just a comment. They said that just for the holidays, we should change ale to like an iced glass of milk.
Oh,
eggnog.
Some eggnog, baby.
Eggnog.
Yeah. They should definitely get more festive with the holidays, I think. And people have been asking to give us back the tavern space. I don't know why they won't fucking give us the tavern. Give us back our tavern. God damn it.
That was like
Nexon owns the tavern. Come on, bro. They own the tavern.
It's got the tavern.
What was that? One of the only assets they
apparently that was like the major, like one of the major focal points is that those two things are the exact same.
That's so funny.
And what's funny is that greed is good. We're like back in the goddamn tavern.
So funny.
But listen, that developers in China, they can't be touched. They can do whatever they want.
Like they knew. Greed is good knew. Like they didn't give a shit. Like they're straight ripping it off. They don't care. And it's free, or I thought it was going to be free to play, but
like if in Ruins, like right now, if it was just like snowing and there was snow on the ground,
yes,
I would love that.
Oh yeah.
And the moonlight made the map a little bit brighter because of the snow and stuff. Yes, that would be fantastic. Somebody said Christmas lights in the Goblin Caves. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, let's get it, dude. That sounds great.
We still have tons of stuff to talk about in the upcoming patch that's already been basically more or less confirmed. But, questions from chat, maybe if there are any specific to those, we could talk about some of those first.
Also, I just looked it up. Greed is Good has 200 players right now in game compared to our 25,000.
200 more than I thought you were going to say.
F's in the chat for Gig.
Hey, whoa, Gig?
Dead on arrival.
No, it lit a fire under Iron Mace's ass to, give make some quality of life changes to their game, like additional stash tabs. Okay, I think if Greed is Good, they didn't drop, we might not have gotten additional stash tabs.
True.
That's all I'm saying.
And we'd still be screaming for an auction house instead of knowing that we're going to get one.
Maybe.
So that is true.
Maybe. I mean, I could be wrong, but I mean.
Yeah, I mean, we were just giving them credit yesterday on the fact that, a lot of, I think, since we talked about Destiny earlier, I think about games like Destiny where they had this, there's people within the studio that had this, Luke Smith, that had this very specific vision of how the game is supposed to be, and they just wouldn't cave on that despite the entire player base being against certain directions of things going in. And I think we all kind of agreed the game needs more stash base, the game needs some kind of auction house, that the trade is too cumbersome. These are just pain points that make the game unfun to the point that people won't play it. And instead of Iron Mace just being like, we want our hardcore dungeon crawler, you're gonna take your shitty little backpack and like it, you fucker. They were like, here's an auction house, here's stash tabs. We're sorry. And I can't give them more. I can't give them enough credit for that. I think it's great that they're willing to walk back on something, realize that there is a way to accomplish their or make it within their vision, but still accommodate the player base. They did
100%.
great.
100%. So I hesitate to revisit the rogue discussion, but I had two pretty good recommendations. All right.
All right.
I know Nate's ready. So with regards to invisibility and ambush, one recommendation that Phil had, I think, was adding a minimum time spent invisible to get ambush bonus. I kind of like that. So do you have to be invisible for at least 3 seconds so they can't basically blink and get the bonus? Maybe that's one improvement. This is not solving all the problems, right? But this is maybe a step in the right direction. I think that one's interesting. And then also line of sight. So another recommendation was, can you have invisibility not proc if you're within line of sight of anyone?
So do you remember, Scott, when I sent you back in like September now? When I sent you that,
you sent me a book.
The big list of things that would change, and one of them was to make a change to Rogue to remove their ability to invis on demand, but give them like a shadow meld style ability where if they're in dark,
I do remember that. Yep.
If they're in darkness for long enough and they're not in line of sight, and for the intents and purposes of monsters, because of how aggressive they can be and how like buggy their AI can be, make it so that if they like can't get to you, they count as not in line of sight. Just make it so that they can spend like, I don't know, 2 seconds in darkness out of line of sight, and they get a temporary stealth that breaks as soon as they move. Or if somebody's carrying a torch and they get close enough, they get revealed. Sort of like a mage light.
Right. As a passive, right? Like not an active ability. That would be a passive.
Just get rid of stealth and give them this shadow mount thing instead. So if they want to play this little shitter hide in the corner mode, they still can, but it doesn't have anywhere near the power it does currently. But it still gives them utility, and it's more accessible than a 40-second cooldown.
Right, and it opens up a skill slot for him too, right?
Right, which is, I think, another one of the main problems that Rogue has. Like, fighter, when does a fighter not run sprint? You have to have sprint on fighter.
Yeah.
When does Rogue not run stealth? You have to have stealth on Rogue. I feel like they've done a good job with Ranger, where Ranger can take things that aren't Biscuit, but Biscuit's so fucking good.
Yeah.
Just building ways for classes to play where one skill doesn't feel mandatory is, I think, the goal. That should be the goal.
No doubt. 100%.
No, 100%. No, that's a cool idea. I like your original idea, Scott, with the ramping damage for how long you're in stealth, where it could be at the beginning of stealth is 1%, and at the end of your stealth it's 100%, and like wherever you come out of stealth in that window, if it's 25%, 37%, wherever you are in that window is like the bonus you're going to get when you come out of your ambush. Like, that's kind of cool. So it like rewards you for being in stealth, waiting for a long period of time for the kill shot, not just like running up to somebody's face, pop and hide, and just zoinking them.
I like that too. And if it ramps down, the longer you're visible would be really good. So the minute they start moving, it goes from 100%. So like if they don't left click while invisible, they will never do 100% bonus damage. Like the more footsteps they take or the more time that passes, it starts to ramp back down, would be perfect. So it's always drifting, would be really good. Obviously, it can't go up to 100 though. Like 50% is already outrageous.
Well, I mean, 100% of the value.
Of the value. Okay. Yeah. I like all those ideas. I mean,
I like
anything
too.
Is good. Yeah.
Because it's an ambush. You're not really ambushing them if they hear you running at them.
Yeah.
Just like the invisibility potion shouldn't be proccing that. Like they're just fucking drinking an invis potion, running toward you, and then stabbing you.
Yeah.
Like what?
I mean, or wizard invis too, by the way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I didn't know it worked off wizard invis.
Yeah.
It does.
Oh, that's really strong.
Yeah.
Always has.
Not either.
So does Shadowrunner.
Damn, Shadowrunner. Yeah. So you just keep casting invis on them, just like haste invis them over and over.
And Chad said, and the Bard song, by the way. Just saying.
I haven't checked, but since they changed taste so that it now gives move speed again, does it still give attack speed?
I forgot.
Because if it still gives attack speed and they gave it the move speed back, that's just fucking silly. Rogue getting ambush plus attack speed with haste and viz is just kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, I love it.
I can definitely see that being a problem.
Well, things are better than ever. We've got some gripes and some things need to be tweaked, but I think all of that is on the way, and Iron Mace is clearly listening. So I think we can all agree the game is in one of the best states it's ever been in. Everybody's enjoying themselves.
No doubt.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What do we think, Scott? Should we wrap it up?
I think that's a wrap. Odin, thank you for joining us today, sir.
Yes. Thank you, Odin, and thank you to all the chats.
Hell yeah,
Pleasure.
dude.
Pleasure to be here, guys. Appreciate you having me on.
Excited to get back into the dungeon, baby.
I gotta get greasy. I've been missing this
know,
goblin
dude.
caves.
I love.
You can almost see it. You can almost see it dripping off of him. He's like not
Time to
covered from head to
replenish.
toe anymore.
But yeah, too long away.
Looking a little dry. Looking a little dry.
Like-
That MMR.
I love these podcasts. I love doing them, but man, 2 hours is almost as long as I've gone without playing Darker and Darker in this
Been
past
2 hours
week.
already? Jesus.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
It's the longest
went
I've
fast.
sat down and focused on one thing that's not Dark and Darker.
All right, well, let's
Amen.
not take any more time then. Let's just get back to the dungeons, boys.
All right,
All right.
everybody.
Everyone,
see
see
ya.
you
Good night,
next
all.
week.
Thanks
For
to
the
everybody
next
in the
one.
chat.
Later.
Later on.
GG's.